In the FlexiProject system, besides changing global settings for users, we are also able to modify access settings in individual projects. As a system administrator, I will create a new project. And as you can see, if I go to Roles and Permissions, I am set here as the project manager. Below, we can also see the people who have access to this project because they have administrative permissions, to the Projects tab, or are administrators of the entire system. In this case, Mr. Ronald will still be able to see this data. He has a top-down view of the projects. Let's move on to another user who is in our system. This is Miss Emma Evans. Emma has a standard license. If I refresh this screen, I will see that on the project list as Emma, I do not see this new project that the administrator created. This is because Emma, as a standard license user, only has access to those projects where she is assigned to an element such as a task, milestone, risk, or product. I will now return to my admin account and create some new tasks in the project. For these tasks, I will assign myself to one and Emma Evans to another. If I return to Emma's account and refresh this screen after entering the project, I only see my task, which I can edit the start date, end date, duration, and details of, because I am the owner of this item. However, I do not see other elements. If I want to change this, as a system administrator, I can modify Emma's permissions. By going into Roles and Permissions, I can add or adjust her rights so that she can view other elements in the project. By default, the person assigned to a task will appear under the Owner's tab. If I click this option, I gain the ability through this window to edit the permissions of element owners for the elements they are assigned to. So, what can she do with her task? In this case, you can change the name, progress, owners, dates, and other information. However, if I change it so that you cannot change the name and owner, then after clicking Save, if I return to Emma's account after refreshing, when entering the given item, I see that I cannot change its name. Any change made in the Owner's window will apply to all members who are assigned to an element, but do not have any other permissions granted. The system allows me to edit these permissions. If I return to this window, I can assign specific permissions to a given user. After clicking Add, I select Emma, and the system then lets me choose from the permissions available under her standard license. The list of permissions that can be granted is strictly tied to the license assigned to the user in the system. Emma has access to the standard license, so I can modify within quite a limited range for now. For users with a full license, I would have full control over which permissions the person should have. Let's say I want to enable access for Emma to the schedule, budget, risks, and products. Emma will not have access to other more managerial elements in my system because she is limited by the license assigned to her. If I click Save and switch to Emma's account, after refreshing the screen, I can see that she now has access to the other tabs visible in the top panel. The modified permissions give her the ability to view these additional tabs. For now, they are empty, but as you can see, I don't have the option to add anything here. It's just a preview. In the case of tasks, I also have a preview here, but of course I can't change anything in this project. I'll close this window and go to the System Administrator settings. Let's give Emma a full license. I'm changing the license, giving her broader possibilities in the system. Full license. And here we see the possibility of changing access to the main elements of the system as global access. However, for now, I will click and, moving to Emma's profile, let's see how the view changes. We see that within our project, Emma has practically full access to the elements that are in the system. However, as we can see, she currently does not have the ability to add risks or products. She also has access to view the project charter but cannot add it. However, from the administrator's perspective, by accessing Emma Evans' permissions, we can grant her administrative rights to practically every tab. This will mean that she will be able to add elements, for example, to risks, budget, or to the product. She will have the same permissions as the project manager. We can also designate her as a project administrator, and then she automatically receives all project permissions. Let's close this window and save the permissions. And let's consider what if we wanted to grant specific project permissions to several people. Let's assume that we are assigning the entire project team to our project, and we want to define their permissions within the project according to their roles. However, we don't want to add each person individually and manually choose the same permissions as for others. There's a quicker way, which I am happy to show you. We can easily define project groups by adding people to project roles with predefined permissions. I have already configured project roles such as legal compliance, project sponsor, project team, steering committee, and tech governance. To the defined roles with their assigned permissions, I can add new people. For example, I can specify that the project sponsor is Henry Wilson and that the project team consists of other individuals in my organization. Let's gather our team. When I click, I can see that these people have been assigned permissions according to the predefined set of permissions associated with their project roles, which I can, of course, edit. For example, the project team will have a specific set of roles and permissions that they can perform within their assigned role. If I want to change, add, or delete certain project roles, I go to Project Roles, and from this level, I can add new roles, specify the permissions for each role, and modify the permissions of existing roles. And so, for example, I can change that the project team should have permissions to the baseline, but should not, for instance, see the project charter. If I click Save, these settings will be applied to all users in the project assigned to this role. And that's all about project permissions in our system. I would like to encourage you to take a look at your user list in the system, your list of people who are in the project, and think about which elements they should have access to and which they should not. Check out this tab to define project roles specific to your organization. Thanks for your attention. I encourage you to subscribe to this channel, give a thumbs up, and wish you fruitful work in the FlexiProject system.